Well, hello there, and welcome to the Terri Show. I'm so excited that you are here with me. I want to start this episode with a question. When you think about childhood, were you someone who had a lot of responsibility? Right? Where maybe you were making dinner for younger kids, maybe you were babysitting all the time, maybe you had to clean the house, maybe you were taking care of a parent. Think about that, because if you are nodding your head, if this resonates with you, then today's episode is definitely for you, because I'm going to be talking about what happens when children have responsibilities of adults in childhood. We call this being a parentified child, where you're taking on responsibilities that you are not really able to take on, but you're doing it nonetheless. And in this episode, I'm going to be actually talking to you about, what are the circumstances that create a parentified child? What are the symptoms that you may see in your adult life, and what steps that you can take to heal that part of yourself? So before we get into it, hey, are you new here? If you are, introduce yourself right there in the comments, because we're a friendly group. I also want to make sure that you subscribe and hit the bell, because I put out new things every Tuesday and Thursday, and I don't want you to miss a thing. If you don't know me, my name is Terri Cole. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, a relationship expert, and the author of Boundary Boss, which you can get at boundarybossbook.com. I also love all your comments and all your questions, and I so appreciate this YouTube channel of active souls, so thank you for being here, and I love to highlight your comments. So, Linda Gross, under the video, Walking on Eggshells in a Relationship, What It Means and How to Stop, says, "Thank you for another amazing YouTube message. I fear my family and how they will attack me for my opinions if they differ from theirs. I have limited visits with them, and I now stay in a hotel to protect my emotional well-being. Your Boundary Boss book and course have helped me tremendously to speak up for myself and say it with respect for myself and the family members involved. I keep the Boundary Boss Bill of Rights on my phone and the Boundary Scripts on my phone. Both are essential in my codependency recovery. I am learning to love and listen to myself." Thank you, Terri. Well, thank you, Linda. I appreciate you saying all of that, and it literally warms my heart to think that you are suffering less in those relationships because of anything that you learned right here on the Terri Cole Show. So that really does make me so incredibly happy. All right, let's move it on into today's content. So what does it mean to be a parentified child when we refer to this phenomenon in psychotherapy? This is a bunch of role reversals that happens for kids where the child is placed in the role of taking responsibility for the adults, doing adult jobs or tasks because the adult isn't there, because the adult can't do it. There are many things that create this situation. And again, we're not blaming anyone or trying to make anyone feel bad, right? It's not about blaming your parents. Maybe you had a mom who worked 2 jobs, so she couldn't be there because she had to put food on the table. But when you're talking about mental wellness, when you're talking about evolving our own personal growth and health, we have to focus on what we actually experienced and be honest about it. So I know I see a lot of resistance with my therapy clients where they feel bad. They're like, well, what could my mother do? She was working 2 jobs, or, my father was an alcoholic, it wasn't his fault. None of this is about fault. This is just about what needs to happen for you to heal this part of you so that your adult life can be more happy and more satisfying and your relationships can have more equity in them. That's really what I'm going to be talking about in today's episode. So don't feel bad, because listen, you might have had a sick parent. Substance abuse is a big one that would put children in the situation to have to be the adult in the circumstance. Yeah, mental health disorders in adults. And lack of appropriate support, right? Maybe you didn't have other adults in your life. Maybe you guys were isolated. Maybe, there was no auntie to come and help. And so you just had to fill in. I had so many clients who were cooking dinner at 7 years old, cooking dinner, washing clothes, taking care of kids, picking kids up from school, walking to get them, like stuff that would be considered adult responsibility. So what happens to us when we are parentified? Well, it's difficult to develop a clear sense of yourself and who you are, because when you're parentified, you're very outwardly focused on others. So when you think about kids are pretty self-absorbed, right? This is the nature of childhood. is to, it's like me, the universe, because that is the experience of a child, but not when you're parentified, because you are forced into a situation where you are considering other people above yourself. It can make it hard for you to know who you are or what you need or what you even want in life, because you get so used to making sure everyone else has what they need and what they want. Studies tell us that you also might be at greater risk to experience anxiety, depression, substance abuse disorders, right? Even eating disorders. There are things that can come from trying to cope with being parentified because it's hard. It's a hard situation to be in. What might you see if we're saying like, all right, my life now as an adult, what could be evidence? If you think you're parentified, see if any of these things resonate with you. Maybe you're highly codependent. You focus on the needs, wants, desires of others above yourself. That creates a disconnect between us and ourselves, like a disconnect in knowing ourselves, because we're so compulsively driven to take care of or please others, right? Overfunctioning, right? Doing more than you need to, doing more than your share. And here's the thing, you might look at your relationships. Do you have a tendency to be the overfunctioner? And do you then attract underfunctioners? And here's the thing with over and underfunctioning, which I've definitely talked about before in other episodes, is that you might attract a regular functioning person, someone who functions just fine. Your compulsion to overfunction could actually inspire someone to underfunction. I mean, I've seen this in my therapy practice. If you're constantly saying, I've got it, I've got it, I've got it, eventually people stop offering. They're like, okay, I guess she's got it, And then the resentment comes in. Like, why am I doing so much? Why isn't anyone else helping me? But we don't realize that we're sort of the ones blocking it with our overfunctioning need. And because in childhood, this was kind of life and death in childhood. Like, you didn't have a choice. Kids are the ultimate captive audience. So of course you're going to do whatever it is that you need to do to keep the boat of your family life afloat if it's on you and if they're saying you have to do this. So the overfunctioning and underfunctioning, overfunctioning becomes a compulsion that you think it's just the way you are. And until you can slow down and really look at what's motivating your behavior, you don't realize that it's totally driven by fear and completely familiar as well. You may take emotional responsibility for others, right? Feeling, if someone feels bad, you're trying to fix it. Again, this falls into the codependency category. But what ends up happening is that when you do this in childhood, of course, it makes your childhood not carefree because you're worried about a parent, an adult in your life who might be unstable or might have addiction issues, might be doing drugs, whatever the situation is. And that is such a burden for a kid. But then what happens when you grow up is that you feel emotionally responsible for other people, which of course is an illusion, but you can spend a lot of bandwidth and time and energy and worry on other people when you feel like you are emotionally responsible for them. And another thing you might find for yourself is that you are like the ultimate caregiver, right? That you, in your relationships, you're the one who's taking care of everyone, whether it's friendships, it could even be work relationships where you're just the one who's always thinking about other people, always wondering, hoping that they're okay. So what can we do, right? Because think about what a burden all of this is for a kid. But if you have never stopped to think about your own parentification, if this is something that you've experienced, that you're still carrying that heavy, heavy burden. If you haven't done something, you haven't had some kind of an intervention, some kind of a pattern interruption, whether it's therapy, whether it's having realizations and then consciously changing your behavior. But it's like, give yourself this opportunity to stop, slow down. Think about how it was. Did you have adult responsibilities in childhood? And another thing that I see a lot with my clients is that they minimize how that would affect them. And they justify it by saying, my mother was ill, my father was an alcoholic, or they did better than their parents did, like defending. So again, we're not blaming anyone, right? It's just that you can't get better if you don't deal with what's true. And really all I want is for you to be healthier and happier in your life. So we're not throwing anyone under the bus to do that. It's just that right now in this moment, in this episode, let's just prioritize you and your experience and what actually happened in your childhood, so that you can make changes in your adulthood, because you now have the power to, which you didn't when you were 5 or 10 or 15 and living at home. So what are the things that you can do? And don't worry, you guys, I'm giving you stuff that you can do in the guide. Go to terricole.com/guide. So what are the things that we want to do? The first and foremost is we want to reparent. We need to reparent ourselves, right? Because what didn't we learn? In a childhood, if you were parentified, you probably didn't learn how to regulate your own emotions, right? And especially if you didn't have a parent co-regulating with you, right? This is how we teach kids about their emotions, is they witness us sort of managing and expressing and putting words to them, and then we help them do the same thing. So instead of being sort of bowled over by your emotions, you can express them. You can say, I'm feeling sad, or I'm very angry. And this is a way of regulating your emotions so that they're not taking over you. You're managing and integrating them. And reparenting yourself also means self-care. You must up your self-care. It can't be all about other people all the time. It can't be all about work all the time. You can't constantly be trying to get 2 things done at the same time because you're so efficient. That's not self-care, right? Self-care is resting when you're tired. Self-care is making sure that you're sleeping enough at night. To the best of your ability, fueling your body with healthy foods. To the best of your ability, hydrating. To the best of your ability, if you are able, moving your body on a daily basis, stretching, walking. The first thing I'll have you do, though, I'll give you all those suggestions, but I'm going to have you do a childhood inventory around responsibilities. What were you expected to do? What did you do? Because here's another part of the problem. What can happen when we are put in that position as kids is that you can only fail. Like, as a 10-year-old, you're not going to be able to take care of 3 kids younger than you the way that a 30-year-old would, right? So, of course, things are going to slip through the cracks. Of course, at some point, you're going to fail. And I feel like those types of failures can leave deep scars for kids that are parentified, because the expectation that you will behave like a grown adult is just a setup to fail, and so incredibly unfair. So to get the guide, go to terricole.com/guide, and I'll give you all of the stuff that you need to do a little childhood inventory to basically see. Because listen, some responsibility in childhood is appropriate, of course, and then some is not. And so I'm going to give you a list of things so that you can see if your responsibility was appropriate or not. The next thing you need to do is to literally get to know yourself. Like, really start dialing into your likes and your dislikes, how you feel about things. Because when we're parentified as children, we are taught to just not pay attention to our feelings, because the show must go on no matter how we feel. So we learn to repress, to shove down, to ignore, to numb our feelings. So I want you to get radically curious about who you actually are. Who is the core of you? Let that blossom. So I'll give you a couple of questions that you can answer there. And then the last idea that I have for you is I want you to have fun. I want you to be in dialogue with your inner child. I want you to remember the things that brought you joy, things you loved to do, whether it was swing on swings or swim or jump on a trampoline, any of those things, and try to bring some of that joy, some of that childhood fun, just for fun, back into your adult life. It will do wonders for the child within you, but it's also just fun to have fun, right? And this is something that I feel like we get robbed of if we are parentified as children. We get robbed of fun for fun's sake, doing nothing, just hanging out, not always being productive. So if you find yourself, if you're a workaholic, if you always have to be efficient with your time, I'm going to really challenge you to list at least 3 things that you're willing to do in the next week just for fun and not because they're productive in any way, shape, or form. Just for fun. Because here's the thing. You're grown up now. You can heal that part of you. You can nurture the child within you who desperately needs you to. This is what reparenting is. When we become healthy, psychologically, really healthy and sound, we actually become the good parents to ourselves that most of us did not have. And this is not to diss your parents. All of our parents, even good parents, failed us in some ways. And if you were parentified, that was major. What happened for you was major and set the course for the rest of your life. But it doesn't have to be the rest of your life. You can decide right now that you're going to take these steps, that you're going to give it a try, that you're going to treat yourself with kindness, that you're going to care about how you feel, right? That you're going to take the time to get to know your preferences, your desires, your limits, and your deal breakers, which, yes, are your boundaries, but they're also the things that make you uniquely you. So they're incredibly important that you know them because you are incredibly important. So I hope that this episode inspires you to take really good care of yourself and that inner child. I hope you guys have an amazing week. And as always, take care of you.